Now, till now, we have learned everything there is to know about how to read a company and understand the financials and fundamentals of a company. But how do we do it for an entire industry? Company we understood, but industry, how will we do, right? Now, you can never judge the potential of a company without analyzing the industry first. Now, it is also important to understand the position of the company within the industry. Now, even if a company is being run very efficiently, very beautiful, right? It can't do a lot if the industry as a whole itself isn't doing well. That is why it is so crucial for us to judge the entire industry first. But what is the framework to judge an entire industry? That is what we will talk about in this episode. Now, first thing we need to understand is something known as SWOT analysis. So what is SWOT analysis? SWOT basically stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Now, the SWOT analysis can be broken down into two parts: internal factors and external factors. Now, internal factors consist of those factors within the company. Now, internal factors are the strengths and weaknesses of a company. For example, if I tell you a pharmaceutical company has secured a lot of patents for its product, then that's the company's strength. But the same way, if I tell you that there's a company that's not been running efficiently and it has a very low return on equity or net profit, that is something that is a sign of weakness. Now, if I look at external factors consist of the opportunities or threats present in that industry. Now, the opportunity can be some positive trend in the industry, or a threat can be encountered by the entire industry that might be going through disruption. Like for example, when OTT platforms were introduced, they disrupted the entire DTH industry. However, we should also be wary of all the opportunities and threats present in a particular industry. Now, so that's all about SWOT analysis. However, the SWOT analysis is rarely used while analyzing an industry. But let's look at some more things that are used. The next thing that we will look at is Porter's 5 forces. The most common framework for analyzing the industry is Porter's 5 forces framework. It is used to analyze the company's competitive framework and the industry structure that the company is a part of. So let's look at one of the 5 forces one by one. Okay. The first force is called competition in the industry. Now, this refers to the number of competitors in the industry. The more the competitors, the more difficult it will be for a company to charge higher prices for its products. The competitive landscape needs to be considered, which includes the market size, total number of competitors, and the comparison of their products within a company's goods. The second force is called power of new entrants into an industry. Now, one of the most important factors you need to understand when you're analyzing a business is the power of new entrants into an industry. This means how easily can new companies come and enter my space or enter my industry. Now, the less time and money it costs for a new competitor to come and enter the company's market, that means it is more likely that it will not do really well, right? Because the established company's position will be significantly weakened. Now, an industry with strong barriers to entry is ideal for existing companies because it is very difficult for a new company to come and take over that industry. So that means our current companies will have higher pricing powers and negotiate better with other companies as well. For example, an industry in which there's a lot of government regulations involved will have strong barriers of entry. Companies in this industry will hence enjoy this advantage. Third force is called power of suppliers. The third factor you need to consider is how easy suppliers can drive up the input cost of a business. Now, if the key inputs are unique with very few suppliers, then the companies in that industry will depend on the supplier consistently, right? Now, consequently, the company will also have to pay a higher price for its raw materials. Now, this in turn can reduce the profits of the company and affect our growth. The fourth thing we will look at is power of customers. Now, this refers to the ability of customers to drive the prices lower. Now, lower prices would mean that the business would be less profitable, and hence it is an important factor for investors to consider. A smaller and more powerful client base means that each customer has more power to negotiate for lower prices and get better deals. Now, if the number of buyers is small related to that of the suppliers, then the buyer's power will be stronger. Now, if a buyer is able to get similar product and services from other suppliers, buyers depend less on a particular supplier. Therefore, the power of customer would be greater. But similarly, on the other hand, if there are not many alternative suppliers available, then the cost of switching is very high. Therefore, buyer power would be low. For example, in the IT industry, it is very difficult to switch from one supplier to another, right? This serves as a competitive advantage for companies in the IT space. Next, we look at threat of substitutes. The last factor that you need to consider is threat of substitutes. Substitute goods or services that can be used in place of the company's product or service pose a significant threat to the entire industry. The simplest example of this is tea and coffee. I know some people have a strong preference for tea or coffee, but a lot of people can substitute one for the other. Not tea today, let's have a coffee. On the other hand, companies that produce goods or services for which there are no close substitutes will obviously have more power to increase their prices regularly over time without anyone knowing. So these were basically the two methods for analyzing a particular industry. Now, when we analyze an industry, we find out the potential of the industry as a whole and where a particular company stands within that industry. It gives us a big holistic view of things around. Now, the million-dollar question is, how do you choose your first job, right? Well, let's meet up in the next episode to answer that question.